Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to the video. There's another paid request, this time from Jonathan. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for the 1996 film Celtic Pride, which is a film I've seen a couple times throughout the years. I have the DVD somewhere. It's one of those films that I can get some enjoyment out of it as a time waster, but I really wouldn't call it that great either. I think just because I do like the cast, although the characters, it's hard to call them likable, as not that hilarious of a movie. But the plot idea is kind of funny. I like Daniel Stern. He was in Leviathan. He was in Home Alone 1 and 2. He was in Judd. A good actor. You got Dan Aykroyd, of course, from Ghostbusters, among many others. They play two obsessed fans who are big fans of the Boston Celtics. The film was actually made before the Boston Garden was demolished, because they had to build a new stadium, a new court. So they were able to film inside this place before. So a little bit of historical value to see the inside of that place. But yeah, they're two obsessed fans. They live for sports. And Daniel Stern, he coaches a school, a bunch of kids at the gym and school. Dan Aykroyd's a plumber. Damon Wayans is in the film from Major Payne and The Last Boy Scout. He plays this very ego-centered basketball player for the Utah Jazz. I read somewhere that's kind of based on Michael Jordan, or at least how some people may view Michael Jordan. Although maybe there's a little bit of Charles Barkley, because very early you see a commercial of "I'm not a hero," and that kind of seems like the commercial that Charles Barkley did of "I'm not a role model." So yeah, maybe a bit of Jordan, bit of Barkley that they were going for. Other notable people: Christopher McDonald, Shooter McGavin from Happy Gilmore. He plays Damon Wayans' coach on the Utah Jazz. I would say his character is really one of the only characters that got some laughs out of me. Just a thing that the setup is, it seems like their team's winning, but they lose. They're very depressed. They find out Damon is partying somewhere. And so they decide to go there, pretend to be his big fans. Of course, by doing so, they meet the real Larry Bird of the Celtics, and he's like, "You guys are pathetic. Fans like these, you can have them. You know, you guys switch sides. You love us when we win, but you hate us when we lose." So they just completely got pissed off their idol, one of their idols, but they're doing it because they want to get him drunk so that Damon is so hungover he can't play the game next time. Well, apparently they all got so blitzed that they accidentally kidnapped Damon Wayans, and then they decided, well, it's too late now. We'll hold him until after the game, and the Celtics will win, but even though we'll go to jail. So a chunk of the film is them holding Damon Wayans hostage. Yes, I know some people think this is a bit weird. The two white guys holding a black guy tied up. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as the characters. Yeah, two obsessed, over the line fans doing this type of stuff. But I said, even with that said, I like the actors, but something about the script, which Judd Apatow, his name's on the script. Judd Apatow, they're going to do Knocked Up and 40-Year-Old Virgin and all these other movies. Now, I don't know how much of this was rewritten on the fly or how many people went in and put their own 2 cents into it. Maybe that muddied the waters of the script. But again, it just wasn't that funny. Maybe because Daniel Stern and Dan Aykroyd, while I do like them as actors, they don't really come off as likable characters. And I think that's the problem, is that you don't really ever feel any sympathy for these characters. You consistently see how over the line they are, which maybe they try to push it to try to get some laughs out of it, but at the same time, it just comes off as unlikable. There's no arcs to the character. Daniel Stern, his wife keeps threatening him a divorce. And even then, he kind of barely says, "Okay, I'll stop talking about the game," because he thinks he's going to go to jail for a long ass time. And so they have like a 30-second dinner. Even by the end of the film, they didn't learn their fucking lesson, because, spoiler, at the very end, things work out, but then it's football season and they decide to kidnap another person, this time Deion Sanders, Detroit Lions. I don't know, they're planning for a sequel or just as a goof, hopefully get people's laughs, or we get a cameo from another sports guy. I mean, this is a film that features Dan Aykroyd having that same dream. He has the dream of the same commercial Damon Wayans did, but instead of a basketball, it's a toilet that Dan Aykroyd puts a ball in because he's a plumber, get it? Or Damon Wayans is trying to talk down to Dan Aykroyd, trying to psychologically get into his head and try to make him turn on to Daniel Stern. And Damon mentions, well, he always treats you like shit. He always talks down to you. I wouldn't be surprised he comes in here with a pair of hot pants and high heels. And then Dan Aykroyd imagines himself in hot pants and a high heels, and Daniel Stern spanking him to go make more dinner. So I guess if that's your view of what's funny, I mean, like I said, it's not that it was tough to watch. It was easy to watch in a way. I do like the game of basketball. That's really the only sports I like. So having that as a backdrop made it easier for me, because I like the game quite a bit. I like watching the game. I just never have time to watch it anymore. And the basketball scenes, they're filmed so. I mean, there's nothing that's going to boggle your mind. Pretty much as the story goes, spoilers, like I say, they keep him hostage. At one point, they make a bet with him of, I bet if I scroll through all these channels, I'll find one commercial that you're in. Because you're that desperate for someone to find you relevant. Which, of course, they do, and of course, they find an Oscar Mayer Wiener commercial that Damon Wayans' character had done. Or Daniel's wife and kid stop by, they find out what's going on, so they take this truck and they're just going to drive around. And it's just the hijinks they get into. Okay, Damon tries to threaten Daniel Stern's nuts with this lighter, and Dan's like, well, that lighter hasn't worked in decades. I'm willing to sacrifice it. You willing to sacrifice my nuts? I mean, that's kind of a funny line with the way Daniel Stern said it. And then Damon pisses off Daniel Stern so much they play a game of basketball, and of course Damon wins. And then he says, you guys come to the game, you be my biggest fans, you dress up, and if I win, I'll let you guys go. If I lose, I'm going to turn you guys in. Now, granted, I don't know how that's really going to work in the law, because you have 1,000 witnesses saying, well, wait a minute, Damon Wayans, you were so kidnapped that you went and calmly played a game in front of thousands of witnesses, plus the how many are watching at home, instead of going to the police. I think the cops would find that a little bit weird to suspect and go, "Do you have any evidence on this?" Although to be fair, they do add in that there's a cop that's helping them, but then when he gets seemingly fucked over, he'll he could help fuck these two people over. So there is that. But that's another thing. Like they add stuff in that I don't know why they add in. Like in the middle of the game, one of those things where you get a fan, and if they can make a half court shot, in this case you get $100,000, and Dan Aykroyd does with the help of CG or whatever you want to call it. I don't know why that was in the movie. That didn't lead to anything. Them winning that money. I mean, they say the line, "This'll buy us a hell of a lawyer," but you never see what they do with that money. It's not like, oh, well, we had this business we always wanted to do, or we had a new line of work, and we'll use this money to go towards our dream. I see there's really nothing to the characters on that front, other than just being asshole obsessed fans. That's really all they are, and nothing else. So why you put in that scene where he wins a lot of money, like, for what? And then you never hear it again at the end. Like, oh, we took the money and he started his own business or anything of that. Or what was it? God, it was on the tip of my tongue. God, I forgot. I mentioned Christopher McDonald is one of the few things that got me some chuckles. It was just how, at times, easily aggravated he would get at some of his other players. Like this one guy who doesn't speak the best of English. He's talking, and in the middle of talking, Christopher McDonald starts spitting. And he's like, what was the line? If you take the ball and shoot, have you deported? As he does this huge bit of spit flies out of his mouth. That's like the funniest bit of the movie, I think, just because of how committed McDonald is in that part. Oh, another thing that I didn't buy was that Damon Wayans would be so friendly to these two guys at the end. Where he does win the game, but then the cop comes up and goes, "Sir, is there anything you need to say about these two men?" "Well, I know these two losers. They're my friends." I'm like, I don't buy that. I don't buy that Damon Wayans thinks of these guys as his friends. They barely try to put in where once in a blue moon, Daniel Stern will say something like, again, you make all these commercials that, hey, if we see you so many times, we'll love you more. Or, I would appreciate every second of it. But you can't just half-assly just put in 3 little bits here and there and then expect the audience to be like, yep, I buy it. It just didn't feel earned. Like I said, the plot is funny of an idea. It'd be kind of like, well, I think of another movie where you take people hostage, Dennis Leary and The Ref. I would say that you get a few more laughs because of Dennis Leary's performance. And his character felt more interesting, likable than these two guys. Like I said, I like Stern, I like Aykroyd. It's very rarely that Daniel Stern got to star in a movie. There was this one, there was Bushwhacked. And when these films bombed, that's kind of why you didn't see him starring in many more movies after that. And even Damon Wayans, like, he would do quite a few films in the 90s, but the Last Boy Scout I love, Major Payne was fun. I don't think this film did much of anything. Then he was in what, the Great White Hope? I don't think that did much of anything. And then that kind of dwindled his star power. Oh, maybe if it had more wit about fan culture compared to the game, if it had something, I don't know. It's hard with a comedy because what makes something funny? It's all subjective. So like I said, I don't hate the film. I could watch it fairly easily, but it's not a golden moment of comedy, to put it that way. So if take that for you will. Thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye bye.